Welcome to the Individual Support Plan Guide training. This is Module 1, Introduction and Overview of the Individual Support Planning Process. Before beginning, please have the following available: a copy of the ISP Guide, as the training will be presented in the same order as the guide, notepad and pen to write down your thoughts or questions to discuss with your supervisor and or other team members. The Home and Community-Based Services Rule is a step forward in the field of developmental disabilities. The intent of the rule is to promote and support people with intellectual developmental disabilities in having a life of their choice, which includes employment, relationships, and taking part in activities within their communities. The planning component is the blueprint for success in these areas. The Home and Community-Based Services Final Rule focuses on three main areas. 1. Settings. Where does the individual live? Is it within a normal community setting? 2. Conflict-free case management. An agency cannot provide case management services while also providing a waiver service. And 3. Planning. While the first two are important, they will not be addressed in this training. This training will only focus on the required components of the ISP. In this guide, you will see the use of the Missouri Quality Outcomes icons in respect to the sections that are applicable, the listings of resources that can be utilized by ISP teams, a glossary of exploratory questions for the various sections that can be used as icebreakers to help people start thinking about wants and needs, and the continuation of identifying components as mandatory, contingent, or optional. The use of the word mandatory in the guide is directed to the compliance of the HCBS rule and not the use of the ISP guide. Utilizing the guide will help to ensure all components are met and that the targeted case management technical assistance coordinators will be utilizing the guide to ensure components have been met as part of the review process. TCM providers should develop their own process, policies, and procedures that you will implement to meet the rule. An example would be that each ISP does not need to document the exact grievance process used by your agency, but it should document that your agency has a grievance process and that the individual has been informed of your process and how to access it if needed. This guide is designed to pull all pieces together: the Code of State Regulations, or CSRs, division directives, manuals, resources, tools, etc. With that in mind, the information being presented is content, not format. Again, this guide is not about format, training on how to conduct meetings, or which employment services to use. When asking who is responsible, the answer is simple. It is the support coordinator and the targeted case management entity who writes the plan. Think of it like building a house. There are many types of homes with varying styles, different building materials, etc. Some are large, others small, some homes are portable, and others are built to stay where they are forever. But the basic concept of each home are the same: doorway, walls, windows, protection from the elements, plumbing systems, etc. Every builder works from a set of plans that are designed with the input of the person living in that home and within a framework of building codes that are established. You, as the architect, use the building codes, or HCBS final rule, to create the plans identified. The ISP guide contains the codes, and you use them in developing the blueprint, or the ISP, for the person. Again, the codes are the components necessary to meet the requirements specific to the HCBS final rule. This webpage is the one-stop shop for person-centered planning and the ISP guide. The objectives of this training include an increased level of knowledge of the components or content needed in an ISP to meet the HCBS rule. Be able to identify the tools and resources that are beneficial to completing the ISP. Person-centered planning process. The individual will lead the person-centered planning process where possible. The individual's representative should have a participatory role as needed and as defined by the individual unless state law confers decision-making authority to the legal representative. All references to individuals include the role of the individual's representative. In addition to being led by the individual receiving services and supports, the person-centered planning process includes people chosen by the individual, provides necessary information and support to ensure that the individual directs the process to the maximum extent possible, and is enabled to make informed choices and decisions. Is timely and occurs at times and locations of convenience to the individual. Reflects cultural considerations of the individual and is conducted by providing information in plain language and in a manner that is accessible to individuals with disabilities and persons who are limited English proficient, consistent with 435.905B of this chapter. Includes strategies for solving conflict or disagreements within the process, including clear conflict of interest guidelines for all planning participants. Providers of HCBS for the individual or those who have an interest in or are employed by a provider of HCBS for the individual must not provide case management or develop the person-centered service plan, except when the state demonstrates that the only willing and qualified entity to provide case management and or develop person-centered service plans in a geographical area also provides HCBS. In these cases, the state must devise conflict of interest protections, including separation of entity and provider functions within provider entities, which must be approved by CMS. Individuals must be provided with a clear and accessible alternative dispute resolution process. Offers informed choices to the individual regarding the services and supports they receive and from whom. Includes a method for the individual to request updates to the plan as needed. Records the alternative home and community-based settings that were considered by the individual. The individual support planning team. The development of the ISP is the document, reflects a person-centered planning process. It involves as many people or organizations as needed to achieve the personal outcomes for each individual. The person-centered planning process helps people achieve his or her personal life goals and evolves as the individual's life evolves. The planning team consists of an individual and his or her support team. The support team helps individuals develop his or her individual support plan. A strong individual support planning team builds and sustains relationships. Team members will have community contacts and naturally occurring relationships and resources. Team members cooperate in solving problems and helping individuals attain his or her potential, achieve life goals, and to realize his or her dreams. Individual directing the person-centered planning process. It is important that the person-centered planning process provide necessary information and support to ensure that the individual directs the process to the maximum extent possible and is enabled to make informed choices and decisions. The individual may choose a representative and other team members to contribute to the person-centered planning process. Tools that assist the individual in directing his or her own planning process include Individual Support Plan or ISP Individual and Family Guide, and My Choice Guide for creating your own individual support plan when self-directing. See additional references and resources located in Appendix A of the ISP Guide. This concludes Module 1.